You're in,
Big airports, it's, I guess.
it's global warming.
Global warming. Well, we have a really cold winter, whatever they said.
That's what the Farmer's Almanac's calling for this year.
Adam, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It is 5 o'clock, so I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Chairman, Chair Lady. Today's a special day. And, any veterans in the room, I'd like for you to stand up. Thank you for your service.
Yes.
Thank you. Right, so let's take a look at the meeting minutes from last month. Do you have any changes? Please let Adam know.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
All right, we have a motion to accept as presented. Do I have a second?
I have a correction.
All right, we have one correction.
On page 2, that's the last paragraph. Looks like it should have been lease. It looks like it's leave. See that on the second paragraph from the bottom.
Okay. All right, with that correction, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Minutes have been approved. Moving on to the discussion items. First up is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding airport financials. Adam?
Yes, ma'am. In your packets, we have the traditional documents, and then I have a third document to just go over. Based on last meeting, we had some questions over cash flow, so I'm going to take this time to go through it instead of later on. But starting with the profit and loss statement per usual, our total income for the period of October 2025 is $212,131.68. Our total cost of goods for the period is $87,000, leaving gross profit of $124,842.09. Our total expenses, going over to page 2, the back, is $137,916.07. A couple items to point out. One in particular, which is making our net operating income negative $13,000, is the fact that we paid $66,000 for insurance. $66,000. Obviously, adding that back, because that's for the entire year, adding a portion of that back, you'll see obviously our net operating income would be a healthy number. Other income, a few noteworthy things, City of Decatur appropriations, 27,000. This is taking into consideration the history of the City of Decatur appropriations being 30,000 is a 10% cut for the second year in a row. Grant from, or excuse me, appropriations for Morgan County at 40,000, which is historic over the last 10 years, and the same for Limestone County at 30,000, historic for the last 10 years. Our grants from MalDOT, $368,902. This includes the Build Back Better AIG, which was applied to the principal of the Northwest Taxiway project. I believe that was 289,000 was that number. The rest was grants for engineering services starting the Northwest apron project. We do have a little bit of carryover from which we talked about this before with the profit and loss statement of the air show, but you can see obviously several of these items carrying over from the September timeframe, $117 from the tickets and air show sponsor income of $9,315 that carried over beyond the September deadline. Expense, air show, some of the accounts payable that I touched on when I did the air show, you can see that there, 23,000. Airport improvement for the period, 3,200, which leaves our net income at $436,559.79. Moving on to the balance sheet. Current assets at the end of the period, $758,194.81. Accounts receivable, we're at 30 terms, $11,531. Total inventory assets, which is line item 125, $76,330. Going all the way down to our total assets, $17,130,132. The other item, accounts payable, always noteworthy. We're on net 30 terms. We got a lot of fuel during the month of October, so that's $112,441.06. Total liabilities equity going back to that $17,130,000. I'll stand for any questions on that. I am seeking approval, and Chairwoman, I do have one other thing to discuss.
Okay, any questions for Adam on either of these?
I move they be approved as presented.
All right, we have a motion to approve as presented. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, airport financials have been approved. Adam, you may continue.
Yes, ma'am. In your packet is also, it's labeled, it should be the next document. It is the 5-year cash flow projections, FY 26 through FY 30. I believe it was Mr. Fowler that mentioned something about cash flows and just trying to get an understanding. And some of this we'll discuss later as we're talking about RFPs and other things. But I've tried to create a realistic starting cash with what the ending cash is going to be over a 5-year period. And I do have these financials in the back for everybody in attendance to be able to look at. But basically, starting cash, $750,000. I believe what I reported a minute ago was $758,000 in October. So our starting net operating income. So this is not projecting what our expenses are going to be versus what our revenue is going to be. It's just going to take in consideration the net operating income, which is both of those added, subtracted together, right? We're starting at $225,000. I'm factoring in a 10% growth annually. Our period for FY25 is actually $228,000. So annual ground leases is the next item here. We have $190,000 that is to begin in December of 26, actually. So there's a typo here in my figuring, but it's actually December of 26. It says December 27. We've actually already received the first payment, which I spoke about last board meeting, but it's $190,000 rounded up. It's 189 and some change. Annual capital expense matching grants. Chose 75,000. Our matching grants for this year is 69,000, which is a $1.4 million project roughly. North Alabama Airfest, we had revenues of 68,000, so I've used 65,000 starting in FY26. I've also factored in $75,000 beginning FY27 for tax revenue. Speaking of tax revenue, initiative that I've been working with EDA is to get the taxes that are accumulated at the airport brought back to the airport. So this would be ad valorem tax, this would be sales tax from events and otherwise. The number that has been sent to me from some of the Limestone folks is that we're at over 95,000 right now. So when I put this together, I use 75,000, again, a very conservative number. Firefighting expense, I'm showing $200,000 annually through FY27 through 29. This is a comparable number. Obviously, this is something that is worst case scenario. Obviously, as things get further closer, RFPs are sent out and received back. We hope that number is going to be a lot better than that. Right now, I do have $200,000 pledged annually from one of our partners that's needing the service. So starting balance 750,000, factoring in all these different numbers. Again, I'm not going to go through everything on the cash flow summary. I'll let the charts do the speaking, but essentially at the end of FY30, with all the expenses and just a marginal growth on our end, we're at 2.3 million of liquid cash at the end of the period. In the packet, the same thing stapled together. You can see obviously our cash flows. So you can see a chart here, which is net cash flow and account balance. That's liquid cash. You can see obviously that growing based on a chart there. That's just information from the first sheet applied to a chart. But you can see our net cash flow is increasing because of all the different factors I just spoke about. And then obviously as a result of that, our liquid cash is increasing as well. And that'll be that orange arc going upward. So a healthy trend as far as cash flows. Account balance. So this is bringing out the history here. Obviously, I wanted to show what the last 5 years looked like, so you can obviously compare that to the next 5 years. So in FY19, we had liquid cash of 428,000. In FY24, we had 801,000, which is obviously the tip of our cash. In FY25, it went down to a little more than 600,000. Now keep in mind, during FY25, we made a significant investment to purchase a hangar, an 8,000 square foot hangar facility at $300,000. We also made, I believe it was $85,000 worth of investment to said hangar. So obviously that is an out of budget expense that would target our liquid cash. So you could see that downward trend there, but it's not anything that is below where we started when we took over the FBO. Total revenue, I brought this chart out so that you can see in FY19, our total revenue was 186,000. Our total revenue for 2030 is 2,030,000. It peaks in FY24 at 2.3 million, almost 2.4 million. The reason why you see the downward trend is because not only did we purchase hangars, but we also made a significant investment in a project at $176,000. And that was a result of closing for a month and 2 weeks. So if you look at what our monthly revenues at 200 and I think it's 210,000, 212,000 for the month, obviously that is where that difference is. So a very strong positive trend is what I'm projecting here. So with all that information considered, the cash flow for the airport, as long as nothing crazy happens, like that insurance can't cover, or we have a pop-up project that is, to fix something that's not part of our plan, I believe that this will live for the next 5 years. I'm excited to come back to this at the end of this fiscal year to see where we are compared to some of the projections. So I'll stand for any questions on the cash flows.
Why no firefighting in year 30.30?
That's a great question. So the RFP is for 3 years. At that mark, based on our CIP, we factored in trying to get some funding for a fire station and equipment. And so at that point in time, it would be up for renewal or going another direction based on what we talked about, which is doing it in-house or maybe another municipality taking it.
Okay, so it's not going away, which is It's an unknown.
It's not, no, yes, sir.
In the 200,000, you said it's a partner pledge, one of our ground lease.
That's correct.
Wants to pay the 200,000 a year. In addition to the ground lease
That's
for
correct.
24 hours,
Or it would be 5 days a week.
5 days a week. Okay, that's described in this RFP that you got here. That's what they want.
That's
And they're
correct.
going to pay, and they're gonna balance the cost.
That's correct.
Okay.
So the RFP is kind of a shaved down pencil version of what I had gone out to the market to look at pricing. The pricing I looked at, I believe, was somewhere around 428,000.
Right.
And I think that was for 7 days a week.
Mhm.
And that's for keeping at least 2 people for that duration. I
Right.
believe it was 12 hours a day. And so this is 10 hours a day for 5 days a week.
Okay. And I know it's kind of migrating into something that you haven't started, but it's part of it. So that's
Absolutely.
why I'm asking about it. So, but this is what strategy, this is what they want.
That's correct.
It's
It's
what
what they
they're gonna
need.
pay for. And we're just taking on the goal of trying to get it going. Do I understand that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay.
So they pledged 200,000. So obviously the unknown right now is what's the actual cost going to be? So it may be more than 200,000, but based on previous conversations that we've had, I've talked about the taxes covering that certain portion of the RF services. Which in a traditional municipality, the taxes do cover those type of services. And I do have a meeting scheduled for next week to pitch the taxes to the 5 commissioners.
Any other questions for Adam?
This is great information, and I know you're waiting on a set of audited financials to actually be passed.
That's correct.
Once that's done, can we get another trend line showing expenses on this as well? Because I think that really paints the full picture.
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought that up. So in the audit, obviously, you can always expect some changes. Our new accounting firm and I are going to sit down. There's going to be a lot to clean up. Obviously, you're looking at the balance sheet and there's just a lot of, I hate to say, just a lot of junk on there that just needs to be cleaned up. So naturally, there may be some changes based on audits. But it's going through the last phase right now to be approved. And we're hoping to start 24 and have it complete before tax season next year. So we'll roll right into that.
Any other questions or comments for Adam on airport financials? Anything else you had, Adam?
No, ma'am, that was it.
Okay, moving on to the next item, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding airport projects. Adam?
Yes, ma'am. So I want to start at the north and just go through giving updates. Had a lot of healthy discussions on the Northwest Taxiway recently with the contractor that put it in, the one that we have a contract with. We've had meetings with Aldot, with our friends at GMC, and we've discussed what we would like to see. They have pitched solutions that were ultimately not going to fulfill the contract. And we have painted that picture to them, mainly the sub, because they had different ideas of what was acceptable and what was not, even though we've put it in writing. So now Wiregrass, we've had meetings all the way up at the very top of Wiregrass, and they have been extremely helpful recently. They have worked with me on working through scenarios, and they are committed to fulfilling the project, and they do have the pricing from the third party that has previously done the same type of work at the airport. And they are working with them and going to essentially hire them at the price stated or whatever's negotiated to replace the concrete. They are working on a few finishing touches to give me a full picture of timeline and otherwise as far as the full plan. That will be later this week, as there's a date set for Friday for a meeting to discuss that. But long story short, the Northwest Taxiway and phase 1 of the apron will be completely brand new by the spring of next year. We're going to start the project sometime around March, and should have really no impact on the airport outside of a couple of days that tie in to the existing taxiway where we rip up the existing concrete. I have to commend our folks at AlDOT for being beside us on what our solution was and then sticking with us on that. And like I said, Wiregrass has been extremely helpful the last week or so, getting everything stamped out and getting everything rolling for that replacement. Moving down, I told you all last month that Air Evac, GMR, our friends with the helicopter operation here are going to be pouring a pad to be able to place a mobile fuel trailer so they can do self-service operations. We'll be providing fuel for that trailer. This will be all within the specs and within the norm of what that company is used to. And you can see down there that they've started that project if you've been to the south end. So more to come on that, but it's going to be at their expense. Concrete, it's going to have some more sidewalk as well for their folks to be able to get to the helicopter without tracking in and otherwise messing up their operation. The strategy project is moving along very well. They are doing tremendous work. I have to commend Gretchen Carter. I've never seen anything like it as far as earthwork and the timeline that they're given. January is what it looks like for this the substantial completion for strategy to have this facility built. I've been working with them, GMC, Limestone County, over the waterline project, and we've had a little bit of redesign from their standpoint of tie-ins based on some comments from Limestone County. And we're working through getting some pricing there from them. That's the last piece of the puzzle for us to start that project. Over the last month, we did have substantial walkthrough on the sewer project, few minor changes there based on that, but all is well to have it ready to receive waste when strategy ties into it. We also recently had walkthrough of the access road project, and all things have been satisfied and has been accepted by Limestone County on that project. I'll stand for any questions on airport projects, but that's it in a nutshell.
Any questions for Adam?
When will the northwest taxiway be paid for with RFP money? Or ARP money?
So I just put this last week, we received a grant and put 289,000 towards that project, or towards that loan, excuse me, in that project. We have one more round of AIG funds, which is going to be somewhere around that 290,000 mark. So if we look at the balance sheet, I think we have 500,000 and some change left over. So essentially by this time next year, that loan will be paid off.
Is there any penalty for us having that project for a year and not being able to use it?
Any penalty from us? No.
No, from the Wiregrass.
So technically in the contract, yes, there are some penalties. There are liquidated damages. There are some terminologies about actual damages in that contract. And all things are being discussed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Adam? All right, moving on to discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding corporate hangar acquisition. So at the last board meeting, I had spoken to Mr. Minor after the meeting. I had heard some rumors that he may be interested in selling his hangar. And so I talked to him about that, and he said that he was interested in selling his hangar. So I followed up with him about a week later, and he gave me the price that he was looking to sell at 3.7 million. So I, over this past month, I guess, negotiated with Mr. Minor and then Mr. Scherf as he was appointed to negotiate on his behalf. So I did offer 2.5
I'll
million.
offer a correction. I was not a negotiator. I just communicated with him on his behalf because he was busy. I wasn't negotiating.
I mean, you responded to me that certain offers
I was
were
just-
not
I was-
accepted.
I was just parroting what he said. I was just communicating with him. But no,
Okay.
I'm not negotiating.
So I'll offer $2.5 million contingent upon board approval and financing. And then I reminded him that selling to us would avoid some brokerage fees, so it would save some money. And Mr. Sheriff responded on his behalf, reiterating the price was 3.7 million. I asked for a formal appraisal at that point, or my desire for a formal appraisal at that point. And Mr. Minor responded that his bottom line was 3.5 million. So then I asked Adam to move forward with getting a formal appraisal. And so he coordinated with Mr. Minor and Mr. Sheriff to have access to the hangar. And he found an aviation specific, aviation hangar specific appraiser to do the appraisal. And that came in yesterday, right, Adam, yesterday?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this week's been long already, so I want to make sure I had it right. And then he also worked with our insurance provider to get a replacement cost value, so we would have another view into that. So Adam, can you go over the appraisal and the replacement cost valuation that you got since you handled that?
Yes, ma'am. So the first was, and it's in your packet this way, is the evaluation standard report. CoreLogic, national firm that really pays attention to replacement costs of structures and working with our aviation group Shoreline. We have come up with essentially a replacement cost, and I'll tell you wrong, it's 2.3 million. It's actually $2,314,204 for reconstruction. This is showing a square footage of 13,808 square feet at $168 per square foot. Basically, this is going on some assumptions here, but the breakdown is of each structure instead of just one price. Or just, this is what it costs. It actually really goes into detail, and I'm going to provide this to you. So you have it in your packet here, but it goes into the hangar portion, goes into the carport, the pavilion, goes into the office space as well. It goes into the exact construction type, and then it goes basically in great detail. I have to commend Sarah and her team. They went back and forth with this group to make sure that they got the most realistic number possible. The other evaluation, through the budget that is approved, went and hired the Gorman Group. This is one firm in Illinois and apparently in Texas that evaluates hangars, and what they do is they'll take the square footage, they'll take the office space or any other structure that's associated with the facility, and they go nationwide and they look at recent sales to comps. It's just like you would in the real estate business, which of course I really appreciate that. And they compared it to several. The packet is, I know it's a very thick book. I think it's 42 pages. But it goes into the detail of some of their comps. They have comps that are the same square footage that go, I think it's all the way down to $166 per square foot. And it goes all the way up to $1 per square foot. For the evaluation for Mr. Minor's hangar, they were at $200 per square foot. And they are showing the hangar facility being total under roof of 11,000 square feet. So with that being said, they have an appraisal value of 2.2 million.
Any questions on either of these reports?
The CoreLogic doesn't seem to have the ramp area included. Is that correct? Is it somewhere I'm not looking?
So according to, and I'm gonna go to the Gorman Group, because I didn't have a specific conversation with CoreLogic, but with the Gorman Group, I talked about the apron, and I talked about what that is as far as total square footage, and they basically stated that as far as the facility itself, it doesn't add value. In the appraisal side of things.
I got you.
I can't speak to that, but my assumption would be that, that would be something that probably not factored in based on history trends of what destruction would look like. Like, for instance, the concrete can't burn up.
And a point of information, I was unaware that appraisal was even happening. I knew you'd asked for it, and I did tell Roger, even though he was on the email chain, but he dropped me off the email chain after that, I guess, because I didn't have any idea you guys had an appraisal done till just now. So, in any case.
Okay.
That's all I got.
So with these things at our disposal, since these things have come in, I would like for us to discuss what our counter offer to Mr. Minor should be after having these done. So I would like to motion to enter into executive session to discuss our counter offer. Mr. Adams, does this fit into the parameter of an executive session?
It does.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
All right. Mr. Fowler,
Aye.
Mr. Hall,
yes.
Mr. Turf.
No.
Okay, and I am a yes. So we will enter into executive session. We will return after executive session. I'm hoping about 30 minutes, but we will see.
Yeah. Well, that was Patrick.
Patrick, you started the.
Then he'll be coming, but looking for a line item and, we'll have to fund that. Although we haven't had a community, don't count the air show, but we haven't had a pilot community event in a long time.
I'm saying,
Awesome.
I'm waiting on the Grinch to confirm. I'll talk about it in a minute. I know you-
Okay.
Other public involvement. Here you go.
All right, everybody is back, so I will call regular session back to order. And I would like to make a motion to negotiate with Roger a not to exceed limit of $2.8 million with a 30-day contingency to purchase his hangar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to make a statement. I'm against the purchase of this hangar. I'm against spending this kind of money. And I would like that in the minutes of the meeting. I'm going to recuse myself from the vote.
Okay, so we have 3 in favor and 1 recused. So that motion passes. All right, moving on to discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the RFP for hangar financing.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
No, you're good.
So in your packet, you have a request for proposal that will be modified based on the motion that just carried. It basically has a total loan amount of 3.5 million. I will adjust that to the 2.8 million. It has short-term financing called out with long-term financing. Long-term financing in this scenario, because this was obviously the price of the facility when I was asked to run numbers. 3.5 million, approximately 2.5 million short-term financing, 1.5 million long-term financing. No prepayment penalty, fixed and variable rates, proposal accepted. It is bank qualified, tax exempt financing. It goes into expected closing of January 2026 if all things line up. There's no prepayment, there's no penalty for paying it off early. And it goes into where the submissions should be received. My goal, if approved tonight, will be to send this out immediately to all bank partners that are associated with the chambers and start getting some pricing in to be brought back to you all for approval at a later date. I'll stand for any questions. I am seeking approval tonight of the RFP.
I move with the adjustments of the previous motion.
All right, we have a motion to approve with the adjustments. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
I am.
All right, that motion passes. Next up on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding aircraft rescue firefighting RFP.
Yes, ma'am. So in your packet, the last item there is a RFP for aircraft rescue firefighting services. There's a 3-year agreement, and it basically goes into everything we discussed previously, talking about 2 personnel, 5 days a week at 10 hours per day. Basically, it goes into the scenario of what their duties are and what they have to adhere to, which basically a fully functioning ARF facility, ARF truck is going to be able to satisfy all government requirements. It's looking here at a 1,500 gallon ARF vehicle. Secondary services, some of the other services in here is basically some of the duties that a typical ARF would do, which is basically some of the security side of things, looking at the airport, emergency plans, looking at daily inspections, not only of their equipment, but also of the airport. All that is included here as well. This is also dated for tomorrow in preparation, if you all approve this, to send it out. And all submissions will be here to me so that we can review those costs and bring those back at a later date for approval. I am seeking approval tonight of the RFP. and I'll stand for any questions.
Is there an out clause or force majeure or something like that? If strategy decided that they don't want to be here and we don't need their services in the art?
As far as the RFP, there's not anything there. There will be a final agreement that is, separate and apart from this, and that's where you would see something like that.
But we plan on having something like that.
Absolutely.
In their contract.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know exactly what that wording will be,
Sure.
just yet, because that'll be something that Jimmy and I have to work on, but yes.
That's not unreasonable, right? Yeah, sure. All right, fair enough, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, we have a motion to approve.
I move.
All right, we have a motion to approve. I will second. All in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed? All right, that motion has passed. All right, moving on to discussion regarding South Ramp. Mr. Sheriff?
So my airplanes are down mostly on the south ramp. And we need to do pod checks. That was from today and I started a timer and I did not spend more than 5 minutes picking that up off the ramp. And one of these piles of gravel has been down there for the last year. We need to do a better job of cleaning, getting our ramp clean. And I brought it up before, and I wanted to bring it up, but nobody else wanted to talk about it closed, so that's why I'm bringing it up now. We need to do something about the pod on the ramp. And it was in plain sight, and it's been down there, and it was half of those gravel piles in front of FTR's hangar. And they're great customers, and there's lots of traffic. And I can't tell you what one of those rocks would have done to a prop. But we need to do better. The fire extinguishers, to my knowledge, in the south ramp hangars haven't been checked in years. And we need to do something about that. We need to do something better.
So are you referring to the private hangars?
I'm referring to the box hangars.
Okay.
Because they're our hangars. And one of my fire extinguishers disappeared after the last air show. And it's gone.
I think that was changed by the board many years ago. It's actually on the tenants to do their own fire extinguisher.
Well, they're part of our insurance and we put them down there because of the insurance. So we need to make sure that they're being done. And like I said, my fire extinguisher disappeared after the first air show we did. So we just need to have a policy. Maybe we need to send an email out to people to remind them to check their fire extinguishers in. Because I think it's been 5 years since we put those fire extinguishers down there. So we just need to do, we just need to do a better job policing. And I don't know whether we do pod checks, but those piles, I did not dig those rocks up they're not aggregate that was below the grade. They were sitting on top of the ramp. And the chalks of the south hangar, their chalks sit around down there. And somebody's gonna pick up a chalk with a prop one of these days. So we need to have a place for those chalks. It would just, I know everybody's busy, but there are days where it rains and there are days that they're not that busy. So, it's everybody's responsibility. Anyway, I'm tired of picking up rocks. And I can't believe it shipped me. So that's the discussion about the south ramp that I'd like to talk about.
All right, we're moving on to discussion regarding security. Mr. Sheriff?
Well, and Adam brought this up, the last meeting, we talked about the photography and the security, and he talked about the security, and I thought we were gonna change the gate codes, but they're not changed. And then I realized, I went around and I started looking at the gates. And there's not a fence between these hangars, these box hangars and the FT Air. There's no fence at all. So there is no security at the Decatur Airport. So we need to do something about the fencing down there, I think, don't we?
There's no fencing on the east end of the airport at all.
Well, they're not people over there. I mean, they're farmers over there.
Oh, there-
And I guess people could walk over there. All right, we could throw that in the budget too.
It's in the AIP, it's already there.
It's in the CIP.
Yeah, well, there's about 100 feet of fencing down here that could be fixed, and there's literally a rope fence down there, and the rope's not even attached to the attachment. So I'm just saying, we've got concerns about security for our customers, and let's do something about it.
Adam, is there a reason that you haven't changed the gate codes yet?
So the powered gates for vehicles, it's an issue of manuals. So looking at it, I've called 2 contractors trying to get those manuals, so we're not spending money. Fortunately, I haven't gotten any. I have had a positive phone call the end of last week about piggybacking some maintenance items. We had somebody come through the fence over here again in the curve, so it needs to be repaired. And when they come to do that, the walk-through gates on the south end have been changed recently.
Okay, so all the ones that you can't easily change have been changed.
The only walk-through gate that hasn't been changed is this one up here, which it doesn't have the foot traffic. Obviously, this is under camera. Speaking of security, another thing that I've worked with one of the contractors that does work at the airport is looking at the possibility of providing camera coverage on the south ramp. And that is something that I do plan to tackle this year. So the gate codes will be changed as soon as I can. Unfortunately, they're extremely old.
We changed them once. If you remember,
Might have been thousands.
it was Spouse that changed. He might know. And I'm glad we're having this conversation now, because we did change them, because at the request of one of our tenants in the South Hangar, they had an employee that no longer worked there, and they asked us to change them, and he changed it. And it was before you, so he might know.
Bouts contacted Athens Fence Company and they refused to work on our gates because they do not meet code.
Somebody changed that code.
They might have changed it out of,
I'm just not making it up. Somebody changed it.
well, I'm just pointing out that we have a lot of discussions about finances and how we're unhealthy. And then now we're asking to do a lot of security upgrades, which are,
No,
will cost us money.
well, I'm not trying to debate, Mr. Fowler, but I would have liked to have taught this before we decided to buy a hangar that we can't afford. But, this is low hanging fruit. The next item I have is the hearing, OSHA code for hearing protection is 90 decibels, right?
85 or 90.
It's 90.
Hmm.
I've noticed that a lot of our employees aren't wearing hearing protection or eye protection, and I'm old, and I work around with a lot of people that have deafness, and I don't want our employees to get deaf. We bought these for the air show. They're A&R. They work at shooting ranges, and they're Bluetooth, and you can have a conversation with somebody like I'm talking right now. And I would really like for the board to buy these for our employees.
So I've already bought them. So they're in every truck. And we've got at the door for the employee entrance, a bag of the foam earplugs.
Okay.
So,
At the air show, I saw
SOP.
all of them taking the foam
I'm
ones.
glad to hear that. That's just a concern of mine. And then the last thing is community hangar. The vents on the community hangar, I guess the fans don't work right.
one of them works.
What doesn't work? It's just the condition of the airport. And the reason I wanted to bring all this up, and I would have liked to have talked about it before the hangar vote, was that we're gonna spend money on a hangar, and we've got some infrastructure for an 80-year-old airport that we're behind in. And part of it's the aggregate that's around the South Ramp, and it's a daily thing. But we're not spending the money there. But we're gonna buy a $3 million hangar. So,
The GMC and I have come up with a plan, and then you all approved it for the South Ramp specifically this next year. We'll have some love put there. This is something that is, and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's 45 plus years of neglect. If you ask me, 45 years ago is when this, we're coming on our 85th year. So 45 years ago is when the useful life of that pavement was well beyond it. well beyond the useful life. So unfortunately, the thing that I have been told is that it does not qualify for funding this year because of the lack of funding. So something like that, I mean, last week, I asked the staff to do the fog wall, they picked up a similar bag. The problem with that 1940s concrete and stuff is it's well beyond its life. We swept it last year. I inspected it and it was as clean as I could possibly get it. And yet today we're still producing aggregate. Now, I'm not going to say that wherever you pick these up that we swept. I'm not saying that, but there is some love that can be done. And I believe that, you know, we will put lipstick on the pig. I'm looking at renting machines to fill some of those holes.
Adam, I'm just saying that pile of gravel was in front of FTR's hangar and I've had to taxi around it with Jeff Black and his extra for the last 4 or 5 months, but that pile's been there for a year.
Like I said,
And I brought it up before, it's a fog walk, I'm driving down the ramp and I see a rock there, I stop the car and pick it up. That's all I'm asking. Fair enough. That's all I have.
All
Thank
right,
you.
moving on to reports, airport director's report. Adam?
yes, ma'am. I'll keep it brief here. Jet A sales for the period, which is October 2025, is 22,800 gallons. Comparing that to October 2024, 25,000 gallons. The month prior, we sold 25,000 gallons. Our annual total obviously is 1 month in, so it's 22,000. Our previous is obviously the same thing, 25,000, because that's what we sold in 24. 100 low lead, we sold 5,751 gallons, comparing that to October 24 of only 4,955 gallons. Our month prior, we sold 5,200. Sorry, year to date is 5,700. Previous year to date is 4,955. FBO operations by the numbers. Obviously, we're based on the financials. I believe it's 212,000 of total sales. 209 or 212,000 total sales. Rent of that is 38,000. Again, I spoke on this last board meeting, but that is a significant increase because of the companies that we have here and the things that we're doing now that we weren't doing this time last year. Fees for the month of October was fantastic because cargo is picking up, knock on wood, that continues as we've got one cargo operation on the ramp right now. It's $32,000 of fees, and that is not our tenants that are paying that. Gross profit margin on fuel, 39.15%, very healthy. Yet we're still very comparable to other airports around us and even lower in some cases. Virtual report, a little under 1,900 operations. Business jet, 116, single engine, almost 1,600, multi-engine turbine, 65, and helicopter 18, which of course this does not capture a lot of our helicopter operations because of the outboard procedures that they typically do. Public involvement, I'm just blown away at how much we have done in the last month. I've started asking Denise to prepare a synopsis of what she does each month, you know, basically wearing our brand at different events. And the amount that we have attended is 19 different events or engagement opportunities outside of the airport and different things. The most noteworthy is the National Business Aviation Association's base conference in Las Vegas that she represented us alongside Titan. And we've actually been getting a lot of phone calls from different companies because of those interactions. Athens High School, I had the privilege of attending a day event with AV Nation. It's a publication that's nationwide, and we spoke about aviation education and us fostering that relationship and growing that program at Athens High School. We had 1,300 students that we talked to. It was me and several other industry leaders in the Huntsville area to include an Army recruiter and one United Airlines pilot. Tourism wise, I wanted to let everybody know that, to my surprise, and apparently there are some people in the room that might have known about this, but my wife Denise and other staff members kept a secret, and I attended the Decatur Morgan County Hospitality Association's annual conference, and we received the event of the year for the North Alabama Air Fest. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So, was very good. I plan to put this up in the terminal along with some pictures and whatnot from the air show this year, and hopefully we'll grow that and continue to see a lot of support from the community of our event. That's all for public involvement. North Alabama Air Fest, again, we spoke about the event of the year. We're still working on putting together the 2026 air show, and everything is obviously looking very good at this point in time. We are looking at a twilight night show for Saturday and a day show for Sunday. We have a great group of folks that are serving on our committee, industry leaders and other folks that are adding a lot of value to what we're doing. And I can't thank them enough for their time and efforts there. If you haven't followed us on social media, please do so, because we're sending out information already for the 26th air show. New developments, I just wanted to say, sorry, I got a dry spot in my throat. New developments, I just want to say that we're continuing the conversation of folks that want to be at Pryor Field and folks that are wanting to develop hangar facilities. And that's obviously in the works, so more to come there. But we have one group that is actually looking at building GA hangars. And I think that's exciting for our long wait list. And naturally, I think that this, our property and some of the efforts that we're making better suits the GA, which I'm talking about the Frisbee golf field. But we have allocated through GMC 2 areas of development for long units of box hangars and potentially T hangars. So that information will be sent out tomorrow because I received those renderings today. We had a meeting last week on site to discuss those things. So with all that being said, I will stand for any questions on my report.
Questions for Adam? All right, moving on to public comments. Any public comments?
Has there been any talk about who will replace Mr. Pryor from Morgan County?
I have not heard, last I heard they will be voting on that in December. Is that what you heard last, Adam?
That is what I heard last, is that they would vote in December. I've reached out to Chairman Long and basically gave praises to Mr. Minor and asked him for any updates and if I could be of any assistance. And I haven't heard anything, but someone out in the community reported back that the decision will be made in December.
Is there any possibility in the fire department, is there any chance we get either one of the 2 counties involved in that?
The counties will not be involved, and they don't qualify to be involved because all the county fire departments are all volunteer. So they actually don't add anything value here when it comes to what we actually have to check the box for confidence. The city of Decatur has, and they just announced a new fire chief today. And they have a new mayor as of last week, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's obviously some conversations there. The RFP, as I mentioned, is for 3 years. So this buys us time to work out an agreement that's mutually beneficial and doesn't have strings attached.
It seems like if they would get involved, you might save some money, but
I agree.
Any other comments or questions? All right. The next board meeting is going to be December 9th. We have any motions to adjourn?
Okay.
We have a motion to adjourn. We have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 6:53, not too bad.
You too. Thank you. Well, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'd do it again.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Yep.
So you got I got a fix for your father.
Can I cut this video off and then we'll talk?
One second. I don't remember his name, but you've always blocked myself out because, he's usually the one that shows up and complains about his hanger flooding because of county.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever done that since I've been here.
No, he hasn't. So you missed that. No, it didn't get fixed.